Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World, and in this video we're going to talk about dupes. I will follow the format used in the exclusive equipment video and leave the details for each unit to the video of their respective color. In this video I will talk about what the different tiers are in regards to dupes, and I will share with you guys tips that will help you decide how much investment a unit needs. We're going to talk about the bonuses here from the Pocket Certificate tab that we can find in the limit break menu of each character. So as we can see, we have 6 different tiers when it comes to duping up a unit: the green tier, blue tier, purple, red, orange, and rainbow. Every star corresponds to a copy, and the count starts from the green tier. So after 3 copies, you will have completed the green tier. After 6 copies, you will have completed the blue tier, and so on, for a total of 21 copies needed to get to 5 rainbow. That being said, every dupe, every copy is going to give you additional effects. These stats and these bonuses are not all you get for getting dupes, obviously. Every single one has its own importance. And what you get until 3 red stars is a skill increase. So every skill starts at level 1 and you can get them up to level 5 when you get to 3 red stars. Let's head over to the skill menu, and in here we can see every character has a special move and 2 active skills, and lastly a passive. The skills you can level up with each dupe are just the 2 actives and the passive, and then the special skill will get the level up once all 3 of them have the same level. You cannot pick only one skill and take it all the way to level 5. Every tier has its own cap, so green tier you will have to take all skills to level 2. The blue tier will force you to get all the skills to level 3, and then purple will get them to level 4 and red to level 5. You cannot pick and choose like one of them and just go all in on it. No, you will have to level all of them up every single tier. What you can do is just pick the order you prefer at each tier. So usually what's done in most cases is the first skill to be upgraded is the passive, but that could obviously change for different units, but that's just a good rule of thumb. If you don't know which skill to level up first, just go for the passive. That's usually the safest choice. Then one additional thing to note is that we can see in the description there are values that are written in red. Those values change with the level ups. Everything that's in black will stay the same, but the red values will change. And how they work, at least 99% of the times, is that the level 1 skill will have half the values of the level 5 skill. So this special move would have had like 600% of his attack for the first value and 200% as the second value. The only exception I could find is actually on this character, and that's the 1.5 times here. I think at level 1 is 1.1. I should double check it, but I'm pretty sure it's 1.1. So as we can see, obviously it's a different kind of multiplier, but flat stats and percentages usually follow the rule that at level 1 they are half the value of level 5, or better, at level 5 they are double the value of the level 1 skill. Then let's go back to the Pocket Certificate tab and let's talk about the bonuses we get when we max a certain tier. So when we max the green tier, we're going to get attack. When we max the blue tier, we're going to get a decrease in damage taken from the green element, and I'm going to go in a little bit more detail in this one soon. Then we get defense increase for the purple tier, increased damage dealt to the element we are strong against in the red tier. Orange tier will give us HP, and the rainbow tier will give us additional energy at the start of the battle. So the green, purple, and orange tiers are just stats increase. They are really good. They used to be better, to be honest. I mean, before the introduction of the ignition weapons, we had fewer ways to get those increases. Now we have slot 1, 2, 3 of the ignition weapon system that at grade A, if you bring them to plus 20, they will give you more than 80% of each stat. So they are not as impactful anymore, but due to the fact that ignition weapons are still pretty expensive, their value is still there. It will always be there, but what I'm trying to say is that they are less relevant now and you have ways to work around them if you really want to. Then the next two are the blue and the red tiers. They have a similar effect, actually more similar than the text would let you guys think, because when I read the blue tier for the first time, I was like, okay, so if a green unit was like dealing 1000 damage to me, once I lock this one, that will go down to 500, and the answer is no. I have a video coming up that will like talk about the elemental advantage, how they work, and we are going to analyze how these 3 blue and 3 red effects are going to actually work. Uh, when we look at how they actually work, it makes sense, but the text itself is just misleading to me. I don't think it's that clear. And also the same for the red tier. Increased damage dealt to red element plus 50%. To me, that would mean if I was dealing 1000 damage, after the 3 red, I would be dealing like 1500. But again, that's not the case. Then the last tier left is the rainbow tier. This one is going to give us the additional energy at the start of the battle. Really, really good for a lot of DPS units and nice to have for basically all units other than a few exceptions that we're going to see in the specific videos. Okay, so I said that each copy, each dupe is going to give you a skill level until red 3, but then you might ask, and what you get then in orange and rainbow? In that case, the system is a little bit different, and we can see it from here, the limit break. This is the limit break for the rainbow tier. So here we have 5 nodes. We will have 4 for the orange tier because that tier has 4 stars. The node that's missing in the orange tier is this one, the HP node, and the values are half the amount we see here. So it will have 1% attack, 1% defense, 10 accuracy, and 10 evasion. That's the reason also why the rainbow tier has 3% HP, because it needs to make up for the missing 1% for the orange tier. So that adds up to 3% HP, 3% attack, 3% defense, 30 accuracy, and 30 evasion. You also get additional stats when you complete the whole orange and rainbow tiers, and those are written here down below. And again, the orange tier will have half the amount, so 2% HP, 2% attack, 2% defense, for a total of 9% HP, 9% attack, and 9% defense. 30 accuracy and 30 evasion will stay the same. And regarding the evasion, I would recommend you guys, when you unlock the first copy of the orange and rainbow tier, to pick that one as your first choice, especially, well, not actually especially, if you're building a DPS unit. If you're building a support, that's not as important. You could go for defense, HP, something to keep you alive a little more. Evasion, again, as I said in my report and gear video, it's difficult to have higher evasion than the opponents unless you are an assassin or a ranged unit. So overall, I would say that's not as relevant. I will keep it for last probably. For support and mages mainly because they have less evasion overall, so it's not really needed. It won't matter at all. So I would leave it for last. But yeah, so that being said, those are the effects and how to unlock the different tiers. One thing to note is that these percentages and the flat amount of energy we get will change based on the rarity of the unit. SSR and SSR Plus will have the same, so no worries here. But the SR and R characters will have lower amounts. That's not really an issue to me, guys, but I would just wanted to mention it. So SR characters will have 30% in attack, defense, and HP, and 400 in energy. R units will have 25% attack, defense, and HP, and 300 in Battlestar energy. But that's about it. Okay, that being said, that's all for how the limit break works, how the duping system works. And now, to close up the video, let's just talk about some general rule you could follow, some general logic that will help you in making a decision on whether to stop getting dupes for a unit and start focusing on some other, and just in general, what a unit actually needs out of their dupes and what will get them the most benefits. So we will start by talking about DPS units, and those units will want the 3 red bonus, so the additional damage against the units they have an elemental advantage over, and also they will want the levels of the skills. So 3 red is pretty much mandatory for every single main DPS. And main DPS units have the highest priority because they are the ones that can carry your account progression the most. So you definitely want to have them in the leftmost spot in the wishlist at all times, at the very least until you get to certain thresholds. The first one being the 3 red threshold. Before that, don't even think about swapping the unit out in favor of someone else. Keep it there until 3 red at the very minimum. Once it gets to 3 red, you can then ask yourself, how far away am I from the next stage that will require me an additional main DPS? And also, how many pulls am I expected to do by the time I get there? So, uh, the stages where you will need additional main DPSs are floor 16, you will need 2 teams, floor 21, you will need 3 teams, and floor 31, you will start needing 4 teams. So those are the floors that are your reference when making these decisions. And before then, you will just have to focus on one of them at the time. And when you are approaching them, like 4 floors below at the beginning, like when you're like floor 12, should already say, okay, what stage am I with my main DPS? Is it 3 red already? Yes. Is it 4 orange or 5 rainbow? Yes or no? And then you can say, okay, I need to start building a second one, which hopefully was already in your wishlist, because what I recommend in general, since most units in this game are pretty much below average or just not as useful, what I recommend is one main DPS and one support for each color for the SSR. I mean, all this talk at the moment is just focusing on SSR units, and we'll just quickly go over the SSR Plus at the end after I'm done talking. But you will want to focus on getting one main DPS and one support for each color at the maximum level possible. You will want the main DPS at full rainbow eventually, and the support 2-3 red as well. It's not as necessary to take it to full rainbow. It will depend on your luck and how many copies you can get overall, but I would say just 2 units per element, and then the remaining 3 spots for that element will be filled by SR units or SSR plus units, even better. So that's my general recommendation, and if I were to start fresh again, I would go with 3 units of a color, so main DPS, support, and 1 flex unit that could be useful, and then another main DPS and their respective support. So that's what I would uh, recommend you guys to do starting from the beginning. As soon as you unlock the wishlist, just do it that way. And if you want more information on wishlist, like watch my video on it. And this way, but by the time you get to like floor 12 or 13, you will already have high enough copies of both of your main DPSs, and hopefully you will already have one of them at full rainbow. If you do, and the other one is also like purple or something like that, then you might even say, okay, I'm still 4 floors away from the requirement of having 2 teams. So let's also dupe up the supports a little bit to get them to the very least 3 purple, because most supports will need the additional skill levels. But yeah, 3 red would be recommended or even mandatory for some of them, in my opinion. But definitely they have lower priorities than your main DPS. But yeah, overall, like main DPSs should always be in the leftmost spot if you need the additional DPS. So when you're approaching the next floor that requires an additional team, for sure you need the additional DPS to be in the leftmost spot, and the supports can be sacrificed a little bit, but they should always be included in the list of like the other 4 spots in the wish list. So that being said, I already talked about DPSs enough, and the next one is the support again. As I already said, most of them will need the scaling of their skills to give additional buffs to the main DPSs, etc. So definitely red is a great tier for them. Not much for the buff that the tier gives because additional damage is not necessary, but definitely for the skill level. At this point, you can get away, as I said, with 3 purple just because it gets you defense, and also level 4 skills are plenty enough, I would say, at the beginning. One additional thing to consider that I want to mention for main DPSs is that when you get to floor 21, is still like the first 2 teams should have the full rainbow main DPS. The third one can still kind of get away with 3 red, but I would still recommend at the very least 4 orange. So the recommendations will also vary based on the stage of the game you're at, because the higher the floor, the more like stars the enemies will have, and the more stats, so they will be harder and harder to fight. The difficulty will go high like crazy. So you will need more units at full rainbow anyway. This this whole tab and this whole video is just to give you guys more of a priority kind of thing to understand when can I stop on certain units, etc., to focus on others. But the end goal for all your main DPSs will always be for rainbow. For all your supports will always be for rainbow, but with lower priority. And with your tanks, tanks are kind of a weird, in a weird spot at the moment. So I will not talk about the current situation because they really suck. All the SSR tanks are terrible. You don't want to get dupes for them. But as a general rule, the tanks should be thought of this way. If they rely on the scaling of their skills to tank, then you want to get at the very least 3 purple, otherwise 3 red is better. If they do not rely on the scaling, like they have some innate invincibility, like for example, let's take Vespa, she has an invincibility frame in her passive, so it won't really matter how many dupes you have, she will still survive at the very least 1 or 2 seconds, which if you have a full rainbow Iwa, she's going to cast the special skill by then, so she will wipe the whole team, the whole enemy team out, and Vespa will have fulfilled a role as a tank. But every that's the main distinction you want to make. If the survivability of the unit is based on the skill effect and not the scaling, then low dupes are required or even no dupes. If they rely on scaling, then you need purple or higher. That's just a general rule. And then that was pretty much it for the SSR units. I would say you can start putting some bossing units here and there. I will go into more detail maybe when we talk about the different elements. But yeah, boss units are more of a niche use case. Obviously, they are used in the mock battle and the other kind of boss encounters. So they're still valuable and they will get you a lot of stuff. but to me they have lower priorities as compared to adventure units because the adventure floors will give you guys more resources to level your links and then get you better results in all other areas as a consequence. So to me, adventure has a priority over bossing, so I wouldn't stress too much with them. Even if you are at a really good spot, like you are lucky you got a lot of copies of the unit you wanted, still keep pulling for more units you want and do not pivot over the boss units like before you get to, I would say, floor 21. You can put them in the wishlist every now and then to get some copies or at least to have one copy of them, but do not invest and get them to 3 red before you are really far into the game and you are already in a really good spot. That being said, that was all for the SSR units. Now I will briefly talk about the SSR Plus ones. Those are a little different. Like main DPSs at 3 green will rival the SSR main DPS at 3 red, so you could kind of stop there, but still not in all cases. So it's kind of a weird one because SSR plus units are more expensive to build, so definitely you want to be a little bit more conservative when pulling them, and you can get away with 3 green on most of them. Some will perform better than some SSR units, some will perform worse. I will go in more detail in the specific videos, but I would say the first threshold for SSR plus DPS is 3 green, the next one is 3 red. Getting it higher than that is really, really high investment. For some units will be necessary. We will go over the details again in the dedicated videos, but overall 3 red is a pretty solid point. At that point, they will in most cases rival the full rainbow SSR units, but not all of them. Like there are still the 2 best SSR DPS in the game will still outperform a 3 red SSR plus unit. There might be one exception actually, and we're going to talk about it again in the dedicated video, but just to say that SSR plus main DPS are the thing you want to take to full rainbow eventually over the long run, and you will want to prioritize them, but it's fine to stop at 3 green early on in the game and then at 3 red when you're already well into the game, but not that far into it. So yeah, that's just my general recommendation for SSR plus main DPSs. For the supports, at the moment we only have 2. One of them requires no dupes whatsoever because, again, similar to the logic I was saying for the tanks, it relies on the effect and not the scaling. So that guy, 0 dupes, is fine. The other one kind of requires a little bit more investment, so it's a particular case. But I would say in general, for SSR plus supports that will come out also in the future, you don't really need as much investment. They will usually have some kind of useful mechanic in their kit that will not require as many dupes. So for them it's usually safe to just have them and no copies is perfectly fine. Then we have the tanks, the SSR plus tanks, and in most cases they don't really need copies. Uh, they seem to be fine without them. At the moment we only have 1 tank to be honest, but we also have 2 additional ones that kind of fill the same role. So they do not need copies. They definitely can make use of them, and 3 purple would be a good one for the additional defense, but again, not as mandatory now that we have ignition weapons. So again, no investment needed. You can just get the copy, maybe get like some of them to 3 blue, especially if they are yellow and purple, and I will explain more why in the dedicated video that I will make on the elemental advantage, and the other ones can just stop and no dupes is fine. And okay, that was pretty much all, guys, for today's video, and also in this case, it went a little bit over 20 minutes, but it's okay. And I will see you in the dedicated videos for each color soon. I wish you all a happy new year because we are already in 2024. Sorry, I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the video. And yeah, if you found it useful and you liked it, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.